Remember when culture used to feel physical somehow? Not literally physical, but present, dense, real enough to live inside for a while. Albums felt like entire seasons of life. Movies felt unavoidable. Celebrities felt mythological. And subcultures felt like actual worlds people entered instead of aesthetics people tried on for a weekend. And now everything feels strangely weightless. A song explodes overnight, gets squeezed for content immediately, then disappears before people even fully form memories around it. Movies release directly into discourse instead of settling into people's lives. Trends appear and die so fast that half the internet starts calling them cringe before most people even participate in them. And I know people hear conversations like this and immediately assume it's nostalgia. Like this is just another back in my day speech from somebody prematurely entering spiritual menopause. I think people are mourning duration because culture used to last long enough for people to build pieces of themselves around it. There used to be space between things, space to anticipate, space to replay, space to obsess. People listened to the same album for months because that's what they had. You watched the same movies repeatedly because streaming didn't exist yet. Episodes released weekly. Culture used to unfold. And now everything arrives all at once. Every song, opinion, trend, aesthetic, scandal, and discourse cycle simultaneously. But I think something weird happened when everything became permanently available. Nothing feels eventful anymore, and modern life barely lets people wait for anything now. People don't even fully watch things anymore. Entire movies while checking another screen every 30 seconds. Even the language changed. People don't experience media anymore, they consume it. And consumption is such a bleak word when you really think about it, because consumption never ends. You finish one thing and immediately move to the next. Nothing settles. And I honestly think human beings were not psychologically built for this level of constant novelty. Because when your brain is exposed to stimulation all day, every day, it takes more and more to genuinely impact you emotionally. Things used to feel culturally massive because people actually sat with them together for a while. They replayed them, quoted them, built memories around them. Now things hit the timeline already exhausted. Before an album even releases, there are leaks, snippets, reaction videos, discourse threads, spoilers, memes, think pieces, hot takes, and stand wars waiting for it before people even experience the actual thing itself. Culture barely gets the chance to exist before the internet starts processing it into content. And maybe that's the real shift people are feeling. Not that culture disappeared, and not that art stopped being meaningful, but that modern life stopped giving people the stillness required to emotionally live inside things long enough for them to become part of them. Culture used to help people figure out who they were, not in a shallow way, but in a developmental way. Subcultures used to feel like actual communities people participated in: music scenes, Tumblr circles, fandom spaces, local trends, forums. People weren't just consuming identities, they were building relationships inside them. And those spaces used to develop slowly over time. They had inside jokes and specific language, shared history with social hierarchy, collective memory. They felt alive. Now, the second anything niche becomes interesting, the algorithm vacuum seals it and ships it to everybody instantly. Nothing stays underground long enough to fully evolve anymore. An aesthetic gets discovered, brands mass produce it within 2 business days, the internet overuses it immediately, then everyone collectively decides it's embarrassing. All before the subculture even fully forms an identity of its own. Because identity online now feels weirdly unstable. People are constantly performing themselves into existence in real time, constantly updating, curating, and reacting to what's currently rewarded socially. The internet made people hyper aware of themselves, their personality, their appearance, their opinions, their entire social existence. Everything became visible, measurable, and performative because humans are not supposed to constantly observe themselves from the outside while they're living. But social media turned everybody into both the performer and the audience simultaneously. People don't just exist online anymore. They monitor themselves existing online. And I think that's part of why so many people feel weirdly disconnected from themselves now, because identity stopped feeling discovered. It started feeling managed. Everybody became their own PR team. And once identity becomes performative, sincerity starts getting harder too, because the internet punishes vulnerability incredibly fast. Everything becomes irony poisoned eventually. Every genuine emotion gets turned into a joke, a discourse topic, or a cringe compilation within like 45 minutes. So people protect themselves with detachment, humor, layers of self awareness, because caring openly online started feeling socially dangerous. Not just iconic culture, they miss emotional immersion. They miss feeling like they could belong to something without constantly analyzing themselves while participating in it. And I think this is where the internet changed culture most dramatically, because eventually art itself started adapting to the conditions of the internet. And once that happened, the entire emotional texture of culture changed with it. The internet does not reward depth first, it rewards immediacy. So now a lot of modern culture is built less around permanence and more around interruption. Not will this stay with people, but will this stop somebody from scrolling? Songs structured around the 15-second clip most likely to trend. Movies engineered around reaction moments. Artists expected to constantly post just to remain visible. Everybody trapped inside an endless content cycle where silence basically equals disappearance. And I honestly don't even blame creators for adapting to that environment because what else are they supposed to do? The internet punishes absence now, which is ironic because absence used to be part of what made artists feel larger than life in the first place. Mystery mattered. There used to be distance between the audience and the artist, time between albums, time between interviews, and time for anticipation to build. What happened to the rollout? Seriously, in the words of my girl Cameron Suzanne, artists used to just arrive. Now they post. Because celebrity used to function almost mythologically. People projected meaning onto artists partially because there were gaps, unknowns, distance, silence. Now people receive constant updates about celebrities every single day until they start feeling flattened into regular content creators with better lighting. But mystery plays a huge role in how human beings mythologize cultural figures. Even when everything becomes immediate and overexposed, it becomes harder for anything to feel larger than the exact moment it exists in. Because virality and permanence are not the same thing. Something can dominate the internet for 2 weeks and leave absolutely no emotional residue behind afterwards. Nostalgia used to be something people revisited naturally. Now it feels industrialized. Every few months, the internet resurrects another era: the 90s, the 2000s, Tumblr, old Disney Channel, retro gaming. Even old internet culture itself is becoming nostalgic now. But I think a huge part of it is emotional, because old culture already survived the test of time. People already know it mattered. Those songs already carry memories. Those movies already connect to specific versions of people's lives. Those eras already feel emotionally anchored. And when modern life feels unstable, people naturally reach backward towards things that feel emotionally solid. Corporations, of course, figured this out immediately, which is why half of modern entertainment now feels like cultural necromancy. Sequels, reboots, live action remakes, revivals, anniversary tours. Because familiarity feels safer than uncertainty now. And I don't even fully blame audiences for responding to it, just like I don't blame celebrities for it either. People are exhausted, and nostalgia offers something the modern internet struggles to provide consistently: continuity. Because nostalgia reminds people what it felt like to emotionally inhabit a period of life instead of endlessly scrolling through disconnected moments. And maybe that's why older eras feel so emotionally complete in hindsight. Not necessarily because they were objectively better, but because they had time to fully become memories. Truly, I don't think people are actually searching for iconic culture when they say nothing feels iconic anymore. I think they're searching for meaning, for permanence, for belonging, for the emotional immersion that feels real enough to leave a mark on them. People want songs attached to entire summers, movies attached to friendships, eras attached to specific versions of themselves. They want memories that feel collective because people are surrounded by constant stimulation while simultaneously feeling emotionally underfed, surrounded by content, starving for meaning. Because older cultural moments feel alive in memory partly because people didn't just witness them, they inhabited them. Culture used to feel like somewhere people went together for a while. Every once in a while, something still breaks through the noise: a song, a show, a moment. Something that genuinely makes people stop scrolling and collectively feel something at the same time. And whenever that happens, people cling to it immediately, which honestly tells me the desire for connection never disappeared. People still want sincerity. People still want shared emotional experiences. They're just trying to find them inside a system designed to keep everybody distracted, individualized, ironic, and constantly moving. Not because people stop loving art. But because modern life became so optimized for consumption that people barely get the chance to fully live inside anything before they're pushed toward the next thing. Because iconic things aren't just things people liked, they're things people remember versions of themselves through.